All right, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Will Moss. I'm the founder and CEO of HBCU Connect. Super excited to have you all for this session on creating a high impact CV or resume with Dirk Foley from Providence Healthcare Systems. Dirk is going to present. I'll moderate the live Q&A on the second half of this session. But Dirk, if you're ready, I'll go ahead and let you get started.
Absolutely. Thanks, Will.
Well,
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm coming in from Portland, Oregon, so it's still morning time here, but we're going to chat about a really important document in any job application, which is your resume, representing yourself in two dimensions. I come from the healthcare realm. I've been in healthcare in a support capacity for about 30 plus years. So I'm more familiar with CVs, which is why CV is on here. But my other personal avocation is interpersonal communication and effective communication. So laying out your life in and your professional experiences in two dimensions is key. I work for the Providence Health System, as Mr. Moss said. We are a largely West Coast healthcare system, and we recruit physicians, nurse practitioners, PAs, NPs for the system out here. And I'm working a lot in my current experience with residents and helping physicians who are making that transition from the last of their training into practice. So let's talk about that document of yours. Everybody hearing me all right? I know my picture is feeling a little sketchy.
yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, let's start at the 50,000 foot level. Um, in the job market, employers, I relate to them as people who are gold panning. They're taking a big old scoop of the data security or the I saw biopharma in there, and they're swirling around the candidates that they've picked up in the stream of those candidates against their needs for the position that they're hiring for. And the people who don't fit are falling back into the river. There are certain things that we'll talk about today that will give your resume, your application, the gravitas it needs to be that nugget of gold at the bottom that the employer says, this is the one we want to talk to. So your goal in any application process is to get to me, the human being with whom you can talk in person and sell yourself in three dimensions. So that's the ultimate goal. Um, I heard the adage, and I think it's at least 15 years old, that a hiring person is going to spend somewhere between 7 and 12 seconds in an initial review of your document. And that's basically sorting them into two piles. This is someone I want to know more about, or someone that isn't a fit for what we're looking for. And again, your goal is to be in that pile that says they want to know more about you. So formatting matters, allowing that 7 to 12 seconds for that individual to give them all the right information. Why you are the ideal candidate is essential. So using logic and facts over flash. I'm not a huge fan. And again, on the medical side, little different standard of the templates to try and make everything so pretty. Allowing the facts to speak for themselves is going to help you a lot. Readability, so ease of access. My eye's ability to flow down the page and consistently find what are the date ranges of those employment experiences you have, what are the highlights, so dot points rather than paragraph descriptions, saving your essay for your cover letter, and then using the job description to your advantage. On the medical side, I tell people print off that job description, go through it and circle those key words, partnership, team player, self-starter, whatever they are for the job that you're applying to, and then tailor your resume to match those experiences. Use some of their language. That gets you through some of the AI filters and algorithms. Your CV really is a summary of everything you've done professionally to get to where you are, and that allows you to make application, all your work experiences, your skills and certifications, any academic achievements that you've had, certainly your degrees, leadership opportunities is a thing that I see a lot of employers liking to have called out on a resume. Any volunteer work that you've had, and certainly if you are bi or trilingual, calling out the fact that you speak those other languages is important. I think for young professionals or people who are new to the job market, 1 to 2 pages is sufficient. Of course, there are exceptions to that. If you've got a lot of research or you do have an extensive work history, it might be longer than that. So don't be afraid to go over 2 pages. I like to see 1/2 inch margins. It just maximizes the amount of real estate you've got on the page. And then font size for older eyes, 10 to 12 point, allows me to read that more easily, especially if I'm doing so online. I was telling Will earlier that I went online, again, coming from the medical side, to see, is there a preferred or um, um, standardized way for resumes to be formatted, and it validated the fact these are the possible sections. I know for CVs, it's a little bit more hierarchical, but these are the sections. And again, if you don't have a particular certification or you're not a member of a professional organizations, that's okay. You don't have to have these things on there. This is the stuff to include, however, if you do have it. So your education, starting with your most recent and working backwards, any professional experiences, those are paid jobs that you've done, making sure you separate your paid work from your volunteer stuff. Any research or academic, that becomes more important on the medical side. Skills and certifications, I see that called out a lot. So if you have training in certain electronic platforms, or you've done extracurricular training, call those things out. Any certifications that you've received. Leadership and committee experience, honors and awards. Good to see if you've received any scholarships or awards in your career, call those out. Volunteer and community service, that's just a way of saying I'm engaged in this field and this is how I got back or gave back. And personal interests. As a recruiter, I really liked to see personal interests. It gave me an opportunity, an entree to say, oh, I see you like sailing. Where do you like to sail? How large a vessel do you like to sail? It, again, just starts the conversation, puts you at ease, me at ease. And then a notation at the bottom of your resume that references are available upon request. You don't need to take up the real estate to put those names on your resume, but make sure you have a separate list to be able to send when asked. So in terms of formatting for impact, be consistent in your font, your spacing, your placement. So if you have your date ranges on the left margin, as an example, keep them there so that I can track my eye down. That helps me see the continuity of your career. Managing the white space. You don't need to overwhelm and fill every bit. That just is taxing on the eye. Delineate your sections. So have a bold, maybe all caps section header, and then dot points underneath or elements underneath that. You can remove the spaces within sections between items to save some space. I'm not a huge fan of lines across the page. Again, I'm thinking about my eye scanning down the page, except underneath your header at the top of the page. That just creates a nice formal header at the top of the page. Formatting to fit the page. So if you have a section that's bleeding over, you have 1 or 2 lines on the next page, adjust it if you can to keep sections whole whenever possible. As you are applying, send a PDF version. And when you make that PDF conversion, make sure the formatting stays the same. Sometimes it can shift that stuff. And this seems rudimentary, but I have this for all the physicians I talk to as well. make sure you spell check your resume. There is nothing that makes a worst first impression than having a spelling error. And the easiest way to do that is to show your resume to someone else, have them review it. Oftentimes when I'm writing my own documents, it's just too close to me. And that spelling error has been right in front of me and I just didn't notice it. So show your resume to other people. Your mentors, your references should have a copy of this anyways. Um, Make sure you have a professional email. It's easy enough to have an email. I've seen some weird ones on medical CVs, kitty boots at Gmail. And it's like, no, make a better professional first impression. You don't need to have a photo. There was a time when photos were included in resumes and CVs, as well as you don't need to put your street address on, although I would keep your city and state. Most correspondence nowadays is going to be electronic. So again, I think you can remove your street address, but if you're from Portland, Oregon, just put Portland, Oregon there. Again, as I said, have your document reviewed by other people. It is a great way to get some instant feedback on, does this draw you in? Is this something that is compelling? I also tell the medical professionals I talk to, have a master copy, absolutely everything that you can think of that's related to your professional career. And then as you're applying to an individual job, take a copy of your master, rename it for that job. And then you're going to go down and tailor that job using their language, pulling experiences and perhaps dropping some experiences that don't match. Again, what you're trying to do is make yourself that organization's ideal candidate. And for AI, which plays a major role now in online applications, using their keywords, their language, has that AI algorithm say, oh, this person uses the same kind of language we do, and ideally will get you in to see me, the human being. So this was my example of a medical CV. Again, we've got half-inch margins, line underneath the header, reverse chronological order in all of this, bold section headers without spaces in between, good use of dot points rather than paragraphs, clean page breaks, and then the notation, of course, at the bottom that references are available upon request. I do have a couple of just general resumes. There are many different formats you can find online. This one I just liked because it seemed very clear and called out the various sections. And I have another that looks like this. Again, I don't think there's a wrong way to format a resume. I'll restate that because there are wrong ways. There are better ways than others. Again, what you want that employer to do is to be able to find the information that they need. So a little chat about references. These are people who stand in your corner and they play a very important role as you're making application to various jobs. When you make the request of any individual who's going to stand in their corner for you, you want to get a resounding yes from that person. You want them to really understand what that role is, how much time they're going to be investing on your behalf. And then certainly when you're making application to any jobs, you want to let them know, hey, I have just submitted these 4 applications. You might be hearing from them in the next couple of weeks, so that when the recruiter, call, that they can respond in a timely manner on your behalf. That's really, I moved through that so very, very fast. I don't know if there's other things I can say. Again, my point here is that as you lay out the information on the page, making sure that you are adjusting that information to make yourself the ideal candidate for that that individual employer, and that you take the opportunity to call out those strengths for yourself that you've experienced in your life. I'm going to open up to questions at this point.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Claudia Mitchell, and
All right, Claudia.
I'm pretty good, pretty good. I wanted to kind of look at those resumes that you had, and what would be your recommendation for someone who is a seasoned, professional versus, someone, just coming out of school.
Just
Like
coming out of
I have,
college or
yeah,
something like
I
that.
have over 20 years experience.
Okay.
So. Um, can I look at, I like that first style that you had.
This one.
Yeah. So like, although this person is, it looks like they're just coming out of college, but what would you recommend? Like some people say, oh, don't have more than one page. What's your thought process on that?
With 20 years of experience, Claudia, I get the concern that listing absolutely everything you've done is perhaps overwhelm and might take you to three, maybe 4 pages.
Right.
I would say include the most relevant from the past 10 years and make a notation at the bottom of that list of employment that additional employment experiences available. Um,
Okay.
just just letting the employer know, I've been in the job world longer, but I'm giving you the highlights here of the most relevant related to your job that you're looking to hire for.
Okay. And I know some people use Chat GBT to customize the
Hmm.
resume for a particular job. Um, what do you think about that?
You know, I have a friend who was using ChatGPT to make study guides he's in health information technology, and he was feeling guilty that he was using ChatGPT to do these things. And I'm like, this is a technology advantage that we have available to us now. So I would say, absolutely, you can use ChatGPT to help you craft a powerful resume and um, just you want to make sure that you go back and that it sounds and comes across like you at the end of the day, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
So
because I
make
have
sure,
used it one time and then it will like you got to make certain the things are accurate because it looks like it adds things in also. So you got to be careful.
yep. And I saw the comment in here. You use AI as a tool, not as a replacement. And that's no truer words were spoken there. Other questions? We got lots of hands up.
Thank you
Yep.
so much.
I see Dwayne
My
High.
pleasure.
Hey Dirk, it's Dewan Hobbs. A quick question as it relates to the GPT. Sometimes it will um, lay out your resume and exclude some of the non-related experiences. My resume isn't linear, like same function or same area of business, so I'm kind of all over the place, which can
Hmm.
be a good thing or a bad thing. But in your perspective, should it be chronologically or should it be more focused on the specific job? How should your job history really match up to the job rec?
So say you've got hospitality and data technology, just two things. Um, you could group them by, these are my experiences in hospitality, these are my experiences in data technology. Um, on the medical side, I know that's how I think it really would be chronological. That's just how I like to see them. Like, oh, you went back and forth. Tell me about how that, you know,
The
came about.
transition? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how you did one versus the other. Um, I think some of this is driven by the kind of jobs you're applying for. So, and maybe you have two different resumes and choose for whatever particular job the one that you think is going to match their style more.
Okay. All right. Appreciate the feedback, Dirk.
Absolutely. I saw a comment or a question in there about dot points. I like to see dot points depending on the role, 2 to 3 dot points if you can do it, that are very unique. On the medical side, some people list out, I provided comprehensive primary care. Well, yes, that's what you do. You're a physician. But if you delivered 30 babies in your OBGYN rotation, that makes more of a difference for me, the employer, to know that, oh, wow, they trusted you to do that work. So if that makes sense. Other questions? We're continuing on.
Marilena Luna?
Yes, hi, Dirk. So I actually asked this on the previous presentation, but it sounds like you were the person I should have been asking this about. And they've mentioned it already with ChatGPT. So the question that I posed was that I had started doing my resume and sort of tweaking it with ChatGPT. However, after a couple of weeks, I joined a group that was helping me, sort of craft what I would say, my resume and whatnot, and help me with other areas. And they gave me access to their ATS system. And then when I would compare what ChatGPT was telling me to use, it wouldn't help me score high according to that ATS. So I guess where I want clarification is, should I really be using ChatGPT? Because sometimes at the end of the day, I think that helps more if you're already like on the hiring manager's hands versus going through the system and getting selected. So I don't know if you have a little bit of insight in regards to that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can add anything to that, Marlena. I would say again, ChatGPT is a tool. It's one way to inform how to write a powerful resume. I find it interesting that your experience was that ChatGPT wasn't able to improve your score with that particular system. That's telling.
Correct.
And this is where I'm saying, you've got to use your own voice at the end of the day. You can, ChatGPT is really good at phrasing things and including employer language. If you have it say, make this resume the best for this particular job. But at the end of the day, it's got to be your voice. And not all ATSs are the same. I'm seeing that in there.
Correct. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question.
Any additional questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat or use the raise hand feature. I see one question from Joy Gibbs that says, do you encourage using resume building apps that have predefined templates? Is that helpful with regard to the applicant tracking systems?
Yeah, I would say if you're just starting out in terms of trying to figure out how you want to lay out the information that you have, those resume building tools can lead you in the right direction. In terms of templates, and this really comes from my experience on the medical side, I find them very limiting. I find, one small box for education may or may not, fit all of the things that you want to say about yourself in there. So there are ways in which you can find templates to match the information that you have, and maybe ChatGPT can be a resource to lead you in that direction. But again, my personal feeling is that the template formatting tends to be a little limiting.
Right. So pull another. Cambrell, I see your hand is up. You'd like to go ahead and ask a question?
Yes. Hi, my name is Cambrell Etheridge. I'm a computer science major, recent graduate from North Carolina A&T. My question was regarding to cover letters. When do you recommend actually like using and writing a cover letter? Because most companies have like a cover letter as like an optional thing to upload.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering like, when would you recommend like actually writing and using one?
Gabriel, thank you for that question. I didn't cover cover letters in my slide deck, but I have a lot to say about them. For the medical professionals that I talk to, I say everybody should write a cover letter for themselves, if only for the experience and the exercise of putting down on paper what you're looking for, what your goals are, what draws you forward, what gets you passionate and excited about the work you do. because that's going to serve you when you get into the interview phase and people start asking you, tell me more about what makes you tick. And so having,
Sorry about that.
I think you accidentally muted yourself.
Yeah, sorry about that.
there, I'm unmuted. Having the cover letter creates that picture in your head, right? And I would say, as a recruiter, I read every cover letter that came in because it helped me understand you in a deeper, broader dimension. It adds a dimension to your CV that helps me understand your story. So I would say maybe for every application, you could write a letter specific to that job. Now, whether you need to upload it or not, you've got that in advance because you know I'm writing to these people because XYZ, fill in all the blanks. And again, second, third, fourth paragraph, you're saying you're looking for this. I've got these experiences. You're looking for that. I've got this that fulfills that. And again, some of those things are confidence builders, if nothing less. Be able to say, you know, I meet the requirements of this job.
It's true. Thank you. That gave me a lot of clarification. Just a kind of expanding question on that. How long do you recommend a cover letter should be? Like how long would you usually like the length of the cover letter? How long would you usually want it?
They actually don't need to be very long. 250 to 400 words is basic.
Okay. Okay.
So again, the other thing I would say is in your opening paragraph, make sure you call out the name of the job that you're applying for. And if you have a job number and where you saw that job, I know when I was a recruiter in California, I oftentimes had 4 or 5 primary care jobs open. And if you say, I'm writing for the primary care job, I wouldn't know where to direct you. So helping me help you by calling that job number out up front is super helpful.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That helps a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for the question.
All right. Any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand.
I'm
Or
going to go to the end of this slide deck because I do have my email is down at the bottom of this slide. And if you want to take questions offline or send me a version of your resume with specific questions, I would be more than happy to respond via email.
appreciate that, Dirk. Okay, I'm looking, I see some other questions in the chat. If you have questions that have not been answered, please drop them in the chat because I don't want to miss them like by scrolling up. But I see a question here from Jessica Perry that says, would you recommend a section in your resume for a career break if you've been unemployed for over a year? What information would you suggest you include in this section?
You know, I would say if you've been away from the professional setting, you certainly want to be able to tell the story of why that was. As an employer, I would probably see the gap in your employed range and want to inquire. It depends on what you did. If you were doing other education, if you were a stay-at-home parent, you know, there can be a number of different things. I don't know if I would call it out specifically on your resume, but I would say be able to tell that story in a cogent way because the employers will definitely ask you.
All right, let's see here.
I see a hand up.
Oh, okay. Elaine Jackson, do you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Will, for this conference, and thank you, Dirk. I would like to know if somebody has had cancer and that for them is where they had the break, is it appropriate to mention that, or will that be a ding mentally? The person will be like, look, this person's not going to be around, or, you know, so I know you're not supposed to discriminate, but you can't remove the human feeling of someone who wants to judge if someone can do the job. Just
Yeah.
wondering
No,
about
it's a
that.
good question. And I would say I would keep it general, Elaine. I would just say that I was away for medical reasons and let that be the story. Again, you're right. People should not be judging, but hearing those things may or may not impact positively or negatively in the interview side. So, or you could even just say you were away from the professional realm for personal reasons, and let that be enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
I see another question in the chat around related to having a lot of varied experience in a resume where a recruiter might provide feedback that their experience is too varied.
Mm.
So the question is, while I can't change my experience, how should I handle or approach that type of perspective?
It's a great question because the concern obviously is that the recruiter is going to look at that and say, "Oh, you've just been job hopping," and that would be the worst case scenario. I would say in your cover letter, you can tell the story about how you went from one thing to the next and why, and that would be helpful. The other is as you drive to get to me, the human, to be able to talk about the fact that from these things, here's the continuity, here's the throughput of how this has made me a better employable individual. Like I gained these skills here, these skills here, these skills here. They all relate to the job I'm applying for.
Excellent. I see another question here from Jessica Perry. That question is, how should you format the name of the resume copies? What information should you place in the name?
It could be just as easy as the organization to which you're applying. That I find is the easiest for me, because then I can go back and make sure that when I'm going to interview at RCA Corporation, that I'm taking the RCA version of my resume with me.
Okay, so here's another related question that okay, Lita, I see Lita has her hand up. So Lita, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks again, Will, for pulling this together. I have a quick question. And I was on the last conference you had, and we talked a lot about DEI, and now with all the things that are happening around DEI, I am looking to make a transition into more HR-ish types of opportunities. So how would you what kind of advice would you give for someone really trying to get out of the space of DEI and trying to transition that over into HR from a resume perspective?
Well, I mean, the history you have is the history you have, and that's never anything to be dismissive of or ashamed of. So you can say what I recognized for myself is that I wanted to experience a broader sense of humanity rather than just DEI. And HR I saw as a viable avenue for me to create that for myself.
Okay, so just really stay away from the elephant that's in the room, but just address it
I
from.
would say, yeah, I would avoid the political side of any of that.
Mhm.
And I think that goes across the board. To be able to say, in terms of opportunities that I wanted for myself, this felt broader and more appropriate for where I see my career going in the future.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
It's a
I'll,
good question.
can I add 2 cents to that one?
You certainly can.
So, Lita, one thing I would recommend too is that while your role or roles in the past may have been focused on DEI outcomes, the skills that you employed in those roles probably could be applied to whatever outcome right? Whether it's DEI outcomes or some other outcomes. So my point is, I would make sure that I'm highlighting the skills that I used in the roles, not so much the title of the role and the outcome being DEI, even though that may still be relevant as well, and useful to an employer, even if they're not going to have you in that kind of role.
Mhm.
I would focus on the skills that you deployed or used to get those whatever the outcomes were.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
I'm going to
I've had
underscore
it
that.
rewritten so many times, but yes, I'm all about adding more to it if it's definitely gonna get me seen more often than not.
Yes, great question.
Thank you.
I see another hand up, Elena Emanuel. If you'd like to ask your question.
Mute. Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Lita's question really made me think about something that I'm really going through concerning my resume. And so one of the things that I'm experiencing is I led like a global president ERG organization. And, you know, I put that as one of my roles and responsibilities or experiences in my resume. And lately, I've been questioning on whether I should take that off because it was, um, although I was doing a full-time role while I was also doing that, it was a huge responsibility to own that with a 2,000 member focus and impact. Um, and I saw like a comment saying, do not use like DEI jargon. And I've been questioning like whether I should even keep that on there. I've gone back and forth from keeping that experience on there, the impacts that were made, taking it off because of how political DEI is right now. Um, and even with some of my skill sets, I used to have DEI spelled out as a skill set, and I'm wondering if I should take that off. So I wanted to get your input on, um, if not as a experience, should I put it somewhere else?
Well,
Um,
it sounds like great experience. So I would hate to not have it on your resume. Um, Again, I think we acknowledge the fact that just the title DEI has given itself, it's been painted with a black hat, if I can say it that way. It has been cast as a negative thing, or yeah, what you know what I'm trying to say there. I would say keep the skills that you learn, just like we were speaking with the last question. It's about seeing human beings as human beings and allowing everybody to contribute. And there was those that will never be undervalued in terms of a skill, and your focus and attention to having people, uplifting people around you through whatever process. So I would say keep the skills, limit the jargon.
Thank you.
All right. Next question is from Isaiah Connor. Isaiah, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hi, I actually just have more so of, just a response to both Alina and Lita as it pertains to their questions. I am an HR professional. I've been in the industry now for 11 years. Currently, my last role as an HR business partner. I just want to speak to the DEI thing. While DEI is, deemed controversial right now in our country, more so due to the administration, that is something that is still highly valuable in a space of HR, especially if you're trying to work in the industry or move from DEI over to an HR branch of work. So I just want to encourage everyone that is looking to do that transfer to still speak to those DEI attributes because they still are deemed valuable. Now the way that you word it, can, maybe be to your own discretion, but still making sure that you speak to those skills because, just as I believe, Alina, you said that you led a ERG. That is something that if you wanted to be more so maybe like an HR manager or you want to be a HRBP, it still speaks to your strengths in terms of being able to lead employee engagement and lead initiatives as far as training and development, and also hiring practices that are still, a part of the DEI scope. So I just want to make sure that you don't lose that focus nor that concentration, because though it is a political conversation, it still is very valuable across the corporate of the corps that are out here still.
Thanks for that comment, Isaiah.
All right, so checking the chat to see if there's any other questions. If you'd like to use the raise hand feature, feel free to do so. We got a couple minutes left. Dirk, maybe you can give a little bit of insight on Providence. Anything you can share for folks that might be interested in Providence and what they do and what type of opportunities they may have available.
Can do. Yeah, we are a fairly large West Coast health system. And although my particular organization is hiring for the medical professional side, we do have a talent acquisition side with many different jobs that are throughout the organization. That includes cybersecurity, IT, hospitality, whatever. So it just depends on what people are looking for, which site I would send you to. Anyone looking on the medical side, you can come visit us in the booth that we have. We'll be here all day for the rest of the fair. And we have a whole family of partners. So the Swedish health system, PacMed, a lot of organizations that have joined forces to serve the underserved through Providence. So
I just dropped the link to the booth in the chat. So
outstanding.
I see another hand that popped up. Elaine Jackson, if you'd like to ask your question.
Yes, I do. Hope I'm not delaying the closing of the conference segment. Dirk, I was wondering, how does one handle if they've had a somewhat toxic environment in their job and they use someone else as the reference on the application, and then the hiring manager says, I see you mentioned so and so, but you didn't, that person wasn't your direct manager. Can you share with me what happened or why you're not using that name? Is it appropriate to make up a story like he's not available, his mother died, and I didn't want to bother him? I mean, it's probably not good to bring up this was a toxic environment, but I
Yeah.
think it's important to try to deflect away from the situation, bring the conversation more positive. What do you suggest?
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do, and this was stuff I was reading about yesterday, Elaine, is speak poorly of previous employers. That's just a big no-no. That says, to the potential future employer, am I next on the chopping block, right? Am I next in the crosshairs of your ire? So I think would be okay to say, I used that because I knew they were going to be a better reference to me. The professional alignment between that person and myself differed for some reason and created some tension that was unfortunate, and it became insurmountable, part of the reason why I left. I just made that up off the top of my head. I don't know if that sounds very good, but it's honest. It says they're doing their thing. I didn't know how to relate with that and align with that. So in terms of having someone to speak for me, this was the better person who saw more of what I did on a day-to-day basis.
So Dirk, another part of that is the facial expression, body language, eye control and everything. Sometimes looking at us
Of course they are.
psychologically. So I think it's maybe important to practice that statement in a mirror and practice so you get the body language straight, so you're not like looking angry while you're saying something positive.
You definitely want to make sure you leave the anger outside. Yes. And they are watching you. So again, if you can, I wouldn't say script that answer, but be able to speak in a non-triggered way about that. That's gonna help you a lot. I saw somebody say I need tips with the interview process. Again, my email is still up there. Please send me an email. I'm happy to help you with that. Got lots to say about interviews as well.
So
Thank you.
Dirk's email address is on the screen right now, in case folks are wondering. So Dirk, thank you again for taking the time out to share your experiences and tips and strategies with resumes. Dirk is also with Providence Healthcare Systems. Providence has a booth. The booth link I put in the chat. I also put a link on, if you're not familiar with their virtual environment, I put a link to our tutorial on the virtual environment as well. So you can grab that. So again, thank you, Dirk, for presenting.
My pleasure.
To all of our candidates, definitely check out Providence Healthcare Systems in our career fair, going to careerfair.hbcuconnect.com. And we're prepared for our next session at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Bye all.
Yeah, take care, everyone.